Good morning, Aurora. Good morning, Aurora. Good morning, Aurora. The time is 9 a.m. and you are listening to and watching Good Morning, Aurora, the second largest city's first daily news podcast. Indeed, we have your Aurora weather. Once again, the weather comes from the National Weather Service of Chicago, delivered to you here locally on Good Morning, Aurora. So we have winds picking up on Friday. Is a storm that is currently in Florida, and it is having some effect on our weather here locally. We'll discuss and talk about it. Today, as we can see here, we have a daytime high of 81 degrees with a daytime low of 76 degrees. Low mid 70s near the lakefront. So if you are in places like Benton Harbor or other nice areas, you will experience a little bit lower temperature. 65 degrees for today's nighttime high, 52 degrees for the nighttime low. A little bit of cloud cover tonight. That transitions and goes with this into tomorrow. Take a look at that. 79 degrees for the daytime high, 72 degrees for the daytime low. A windy day tomorrow, gusts up to 40 miles per hour. Now, there's also a 20 to 30% chance of thunderstorms, we can see right here, which will come late. And indeed, if it does come, 64 degrees will be our nighttime high Friday night. 55 degrees will be the nighttime low. Now, that 20 to 30% up top here turns into 20 to 60% right here with breezy conditions with the rain as well. So it'll be like the Wizard of Oz. Don't get swept up in the storm. Saturday, 77 degrees for the daytime high, 70 degrees for the daytime low. A breezy day on Saturday as well, a 20 to 50% chance of rain and thunderstorms. Be aware of that. Saturday night, take a look, 64 degrees for the nighttime high, 56 degrees for the nighttime low. The 20 to 50% chance of thunderstorms here up top does continue into Saturday evening. Sunday, moving ahead, 79 degrees for the daytime high, 71 degrees for the daytime low, 20 to 50% chance of rain on Sunday, but indeed we do see the sunshine emoji as well with some clouds. It'll be a mixture of weather on Sunday. Sunday night, 64 degrees for the nighttime high, 56 degrees for the nighttime low, and a 20 to 30% chance of thunderstorms on Sunday night. Let's recap, ladies and gentlemen. 81 degrees today for the daytime high, 76 degrees for the daytime low, 79 degrees for the daytime high on Friday, 72 degrees for your daytime low. Moving ahead to Saturday, 77 degrees for the daytime high, 70 degrees for the daytime low, and on Sunday, 79 degrees for the daytime high, 71 degrees for that daytime low. That is your weather report here on Good Morning Aurora, the second largest city's first daily news podcast. Our interview today is with author and Marine Corps veteran Jan Schrader. Get ready for a great show. Good morning, Aurora. Good morning, Aurora. Good morning, Aurora. The time is 9:04 a.m. and you are listening to and watching Good Morning, Aurora, the second largest city's first daily news podcast. We have a brand new guest on the program today, an author. You know we love authors. He is the author of The Secret of the 13th Month, which is a book on better time management. He's currently garnering much recognition locally as an abstract painter. He's also a Vietnam veteran who served in the Marine Corps and is active supporting area veterans through his local VFW post. That trail of superlatives could lead to only one guest, Mr. Jan Schrader. How are you, sir?
I'm doing very well, Curtis. Thank you.
Glad to have you on the program today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We and I love to read, love our authors. Mm-hmm. We love our veterans on this program, so this is truly an honor.
Great.
Now, First Fridays, which is beloved in this city, on October 4th, you're going to be the featured solo artist at If These Walls Could Talk.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that show that night.
Yes. First of all, I'm an abstract artist, and so the show will be all abstract art. It's going to be quite an event where the theme of the show, it's called Palette Riffs, okay. And it's a fusion of art and jazz. And where that comes from is I've always thought that abstract art was kind of like jazz on canvas. So my website is Canvas Jazz. Okay. And so to be consistent with that theme, we're going to have a three-piece jazz combo playing that night. We're going to have wine and cheese and other things to eat and some giveaways, and it's just going to be a very, very pleasant evening, and particularly in conjunction with the First Friday event. There'll be a lot of people on the street. It's open to the public. We'd love to have everybody come out and say hi and get a chance to share my artwork with them and just have a very fun evening.
And a slice of cheese and some artwork.
Right.
The folks who watch this program love our First Fridays, and this is going to be a nice blend for that downtown scene. Everyone knows where If These Walls Could Talk is located. It's a really nice, right there on Stolp. Right there on Stolp.
32
great
South Stolp, yes.
Yep. Okay, when did you start painting, and how did you make the connection to paint while listening to jazz?
Well, the two kind of coincided. I've been a jazz aficionado for some time.
Okay.
Actually, really started back in college and got into the jazz scene at that time. And okay. It's grown over the year. The artists have changed. We've got some great new younger artists that are phenomenal. But I've always liked jazz. Yeah. And so I have this affinity to be playing music all the time anyway, so I'm playing my favorite music. Yeah. Well, as I'm doing my artwork, I have it playing in the background, and I just find it kind of inspirational. Yeah. So, but as far as when I started, I've only been painting for about 3.5 years.
Oh, wow.
And I never set out to really do any art for the public. I just started out painting for myself just as fun and for fun. It was something I've kind of wanted to do for a lot of years and never really had time. I had a very busy career in the financial services industry, and so finally, in semi-retirement, let's call it, I started painting a little bit and really enjoyed it. And my wife was my late wife was a very great inspiration and kept encouraging me to do it, and so I kept experimenting more and more, and just and so we were. It's kind of a funny story. We have a place down in outside of Phoenix, and we were down there at an art gallery, and we stopped in and we're looking around and got talking with the people, and out of the blue she says to them, "Well, my husband's an artist." To me, that was I'm not an artist. I'm a guy who likes to paint. Right? Yeah, right. Threw me out of the boat. And so they said, "Well, do you have any photos of your art?" So I showed them what I had on the phone, and well, you ought to join our gallery. And I said, "Well, I don't think my art's good enough." They said, "Absolutely, your art's good enough. We'd like to." So I did, and so that was really kind of confirmation that my work might be okay.
Right.
And then some time passed, and I started selling some paintings, and that was really the confirmation when somebody handed over some bucks for what I was
That's
doing.
when you know, okay, I got something here.
Yeah,
right?
Right. When people are willing to hand over their money, you know that maybe you have something going.
So no formal art training
No.
whatsoever. This doing this in the last 3 years. Now now palette riffs, which I love because I'm an art fan, or excuse me, a jazz fan as well. I grew up. My father loved jazz. I mean, WNUA 95.5.
Yes, absolutely.
From a young lad to now, you are right. Jazz takes so many twists and turns in an audio fashion.
Yeah.
But it allows you to go with it, to express with it, to feel with it, to get rid of your woes or your cares for that drive home or wherever you find yourself listening to it.
Yes.
So I think I really like palette riffs because that's really what's happening, and to combine that with art terminology is brilliant. It really is.
Absolutely. So it's reflected in my work because, as I say, my work is very free form. Some of the things that are noticeable right away is I use a lot of heavy texture in my work.
Okay.
And I do that for a few reasons. One, I like the dimensional effect, 3 dimensions. Flat artwork is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And there's some very fine, talented painters who can make a flat painting look 3-dimensional. Right. I don't happen to be one of them. Right. So I do it the other way. I actually make it 3-dimensional.
Right.
And the other thing I like about that, and I couple that with a lot of metallics and high gloss paints. So I like that because if you have the painting on the wall, and as the light changes in the room during the course of the day, it changes in appearance to a certain extent.
Right. Yes.
And so I find that quite interesting, and it gives it's not as static as a lot of art is. It gives it some life and some motion.
And it gives you as the artist your own unique style, which is what people understand and they see and they like, and that's what makes people follow at certain artists.
Yes. The one comment that I do hear repeatedly is the unique quality of my work. That it's unlike things that people have seen. With that, I also will frequently include kind of an Asian flair to it.
Sure.
Over the years, I acquired an interest in Asian art, more toward the Zen side, simplicity,
right.
Clean, a lot of negative space. And so that's reflected in my painting as well.
That's wonderful. The time is 9:12 a.m. You are listening to and watching Good Morning Aurora, the second largest city's first daily news podcast. If you are just joining us, we're here with author, painter, Jan Schrader, also Marine Corps veteran as well. First Friday, If These Walls Could Talk. It's going to be a fantastic show. You can see and meet Mr. Schrader there and check out his painting and artwork palette riffs. What time does the event start on the 4th?
It starts at 7, runs from 7 to 10.
Okay.
And even if you can only come for a few minutes, we'd love to have you come and say hello and get to meet you and share what we have. So
absolutely. Josue Pais, good morning to you. Julia Lindbergh is here, one of our great listeners. She says, what a lovely, humble gentleman. Yes, he is. Thank you very much. Susan Harker Lorraine, good morning to you. Johanna Rebman and Tracy Duran, good morning to you, and thank you. Josie Mendoza Geller, good morning to all of you great folks. The time is 9:13. Now, so we talked about you are a Midwesterner,
yes.
Born and raised, and the Asian influence in your work that you talked about, a lot of negative space,
yes.
and things like that. What's next? What's next for Jan Schrader as a painter and artist before we move on to the book?
Yeah, that's a very good question. What I find is as I keep experimenting with what I'm doing, I find new directions for it. But that's kind of consistent with the whole jazz concept, sure. Because there's no limits on it.
Right.
And so it gives you a chance for riffs, if you will, for innovation. Mm-hmm. And so I just keep experimenting. And, I've got a lot of really bad art in my basement because the experiments went wrong.
Sure.
If anybody wants some free art, come see me. It's not good, but I'll give it to you. But anyway, no, that's how you learn. And I look at it that every painting, every one of my paintings is really an experiment. I don't do a lot of sketching. I don't do a lot of preparation. I'll get a general kind of vague concept of where I want to go with it, and that again, it's very improvisational,
Right.
And sometimes that works, and sometimes it doesn't.
It's genuine.
Yeah.
It's genuine. I mean, for example, cards on the table. I read all about you prior to our interview here, but I don't want to be, and I don't think the audience wants to be, the people who watch the show don't want me to be an expert on Jan Schrader. The point is to have the expert come in and share with us.
Sure.
All right, last question about jazz. Favorite jazz artist?
Well, I'm glad, and people ask me that all the time, and I get, there's so many of them, and I get this kind of gridlock, so I actually took time to write some of them down. Back in college when I was getting into it, I really liked people like Ahmad Jamal and Thelonious Monk, Cal Jader, guys of that ilk, and Chet Baker, Charlie Parker,
great stuff.
all right, the classic guys,
great stuff.
So and Ellington, of course, was still around, and so those were great guys. But since then, there's been a lot of really good artists that have stayed popular. Some of them are now gone. Paul Desmond was one of my favorite. I think he was, with of course he did so much of his work with Brubeck.
Right.
But
Dave Brubeck.
Dave
Man.
Brubeck, yeah, absolutely.
Good memories.
And of course, I think Paul Desmond actually, with Brubeck, kind of defined jazz in the early '60s when they did Take Five, and of course Desmond wrote that. But it was such a watershed moment because it was done in 5/4 time, which nobody had really done before, or not to any great extent.
Right.
And then, of course, they had the fabulous drummer Joe Morello that really took that piece and drove it by, changing the beat with every couple of bars and stuff. And
it is a fantastic song.
Yeah.
It really is. I mean, it stands out amongst jazz songs.
Yeah. And he really had one of the warmest sounds for a saxophone, of anybody. And I like Gene Harris on piano and Oscar Peterson.
Okay.
And, of course, Lionel Hampton, Milt Jackson on the vibes, and Stan Getz. That's one of my other favorite saxophone players. And Herbie Mann, Bill Charlap on the piano, and more recently Diana Krall. I think she does some really interesting work.
Oh, I'm not familiar.
And she's a very good vocalist and jazz pianist. And then I also I have a real fondness for Latin jazz, Afro-Cuban jazz, and so forth. So I like guys like Gata Barbieri and Paquito de Rivera.
Okay.
And Arturo Sandoval, probably one of the greatest trumpeters of our time.
Are they Fania folks?
Yes. Well, some of them are. That's a little more toward the salsa kind of rhythms.
Okay. That's correct.
And while there is some crossover, like Tito Puente and guys like that, they also, in their own right, are great jazz artists as well. Pancho Sanchez, Chucho Valdez.
You're speaking my language now.
All right.
Jan, we got to hang out sometime. Wine and cheese at this event. October 4th, man. October 4th, if these walls could talk. I'm a little bit younger, but boy, Kenny G, Boney James, some of those guys, those are the guys who my dad really used to listen to.
That was the NUA crew.
Yes. Gosh, those good times. Yeah. It brings back good memories for me. Again, jazz says so much in its music. It says a lot. Anyway, I could talk about jazz all day. 9:18 is the time. Better time management.
Yes.
I think everybody could use some tips on better time management. Harvesting the time to achieve your life's dreams.
Yes.
First of all, what does the average person get wrong about time management?
Their perception of time.
Okay.
You'll notice the subtitle is Harvesting the Time to Achieve Your Life's Dreams.
Yes.
This book was co-authored with a great friend of mine. Actually, we'd been in the Marine Corps together and then had business careers that took us on somewhat parallel paths. And so we really started preparing this to create more efficient ways for the people that we were managing. We were both in production management, sales production management in our various careers. But what we found is that the perception of time has such a great deal to do with how we execute our time. And this really started, my friend David Thomason had quit smoking. And so he found, all the times when he would have gone out for a cigarette, he had all these like 5-minute periods of time that he could use for something else. So this was before, of course, email and so forth. So he started writing postcards to people and so forth and using that time to stay in touch with folks. All of that transmutated into looking at how we can use small bits of time to our advantage. So here's what we did. We said, okay, let's say that we're awake 16 hours a day. And let's assume, and I think it's fair, that we waste 2 minutes an hour. Okay, so that's 32 minutes a day that's wasted, very conservatively. I think we would all agree.
It is, okay. Yeah.
If you do the math on that, which we do in the book, you find out that equates amazingly to 24.3 days in a year's time.
Wow, when you put it in that perspective, that's a lot of wasted time.
Well, when you realize that the average work month is 24 business days, this gives you, if you were to use those 2 minutes every hour, you would have picked up an additional 13th month, thus the name of the book. That's the secret of the 13th month. Now, that's easier said than done to say, well, okay, I'm gonna save 2 minutes an hour. The question then is how. And first of all, you have to recognize the opportunities there are to utilize that time, and then you have to have strategies to do so. It's all laid out in the book.
Right.
The thing is that, going back to the perception of time, what we find is that too often tasks are not begun because there's this overwhelming perception that it's going to take too long to do and we can't get it done in the time we have. We were taught as kids, don't start something you can't finish, right? And that's a real fallacy because let me just give you a real quick example.
Absolutely.
Let's say you have a garage or a basement or a storage shed or something full of boxes that you need to go through and get rid of or what have you. And you go and you open the garage and you go, this is going to take hours. I don't have time to do this. So you put it off. I'll do it next weekend. Next weekend comes, same thing. You don't have time. But what if you did this? What if every day you took just a box or two and went through it? Now, it will take a longer number of days perhaps, but you'll get it done.
Right.
Eventually you come to that last box.
Right.
And if you don't, then all that time that could have been utilized is wasted.
Right.
So one of the first strategies is recognizing the value of small periods of time.
Amen to that. Amen to that.
And one of the things that I have done repeatedly is I talk to people and their doubters and about how this can work. And so I give them a copy of the book and I say, go in there. We've got some exercises. And one of the exercises is take common tasks that you do in a day, making the bed, loading the washer, unloading the dishwasher, those kinds of things. Write down how many minutes you think it takes to do that. And then time yourself. Do it and time yourself. And invariably, people come back and say, well, it didn't take as long as I thought it was going to.
Exactly.
And so that's the beginning of the perception of accurate time usage. So we go into all kinds of different strategies, how we go about things. One of the problems that so many people have is what we call longitudinal thinking, where you have to do step A, then step B, then step C, and often that's a real that's a hindrance because you can often do C before you do A, and so you don't have to do it in this linear manner that we perceive it to be done.
You don't.
Learning some tricks like that can really help you have more time.
This resonates with me because I am 14 years cigarette free.
Oh, great.
I was a career cigarette smoker. I know how much more productive I was. That is so true. The time where I would go out and have a cigarette, that time, my goodness, the time and the money just increased like it was. And you also mentioned that when you're thinking about doing a task and you're consistently putting it off, there is something going on with the average person where when you open that shed door or when you open the whatever it is, the vision of the work seems daunting. That fight or flight,
Yes. Yes.
And also to your point too, if you think it's going to take you 5 minutes, and you do the steps in this book, and I think this is bonus, the time harvesting journal I was reading as you were going along.
Yes.
When you do that, you're going to subconsciously psych yourself to do it quicker than that 5 minutes you wrote.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to try to get those dishes done, whatever it could be.
Yes.
So I look forward to reading this book and delving into it as I have my chamomile tea with lemon every night, because that is true.
Yes.
And I can tell you, as a person who was a career cigarette smoker, when I kicked the habit, man, I got so much more productive.
Yes.
So much more productive. 9:25 is the time.
Yeah. If I just may comment on something you brought up, it's very, very important. We address it in the book, and that is the whole psychology of procrastination. And there are many reasons, psychological reasons, that people procrastinate.
Yes.
And some is they don't want to deal with the unpleasantness of the task.
Right.
That's a very basic
I
human one. But there are others. In some cases, it's a matter of fear. And it can be a fear of failing to get the task done properly. Now, that can apply often in work situations, not so much in home, although that's true in home situations too, but especially if you're given an assignment at work and you're given some latitude in the time frame and so forth. People sometimes put it off because they're really afraid to tackle it.
Yes.
They're afraid of doing it wrong, getting criticism from their peers or their boss or what have you, or just fear of not knowing how to do it.
Right.
So there's the unpleasantness, there's fear, there are other reasons as well. Some are they're all self-defeating, but in some cases it's that in doing so and in doing the task, you may have to give up some other thing that you're doing, and you don't want to have to do that.
Right.
So there are trade-offs, and you're compromising with yourself. It gets a lot into the psychology of those issues, and we give you exercises in there to deal with all of them.
I resonate with so much of this book. 9:27 is the time. Just a couple of what's included in the table of contents. I just want to read a lot of this for folks.
Sure.
Who and what is responsible for your lack of time? More deadly habits. Failure to plan. Procrastination, the 8th deadly habit. Determining your why. Making the dream come true, the first steps. Setting a realistic goal. Your natural built-in success system, I mean, the book is The Secret of the 13th Month, Harvesting the Time to Achieve Your Life's Dreams. What if you could have a 13th month or more every year for the rest of your life? What if you could finally have the time you long for to pursue your life's dreams? Well, in regards to time, yes. Friday, October 4th at 7 p.m. To 10 p.m. at If These Walls Could Talk, Custom Framing and Gallery, 32 South Stope Avenue. Here in Aurora is going to be the event. So the show ends on a positive note. What is your message today for the people of Aurora as we land this airplane?
Well, I'm so impressed. We just found out recently that Aurora was named as one of the 10 best, most creative, I should say, cities in the country. And
That's
so
good.
Kudos to Aurora and to the incredible resurgence and renaissance that's been going on here. And we're just very happy that we can be part of it on October 4th and support the city.
Wonderful, wonderful. I want to say thank you very much to our guest, Mr. Jan Schrader, and also to our friend Lynn Kornacki for putting us in contact with Mr. Schrader here. Right now, we're going to go to our commercial, and Buenos Dias, Aurora, the second largest city's first bilingual news podcast. We'll begin with a great guest and dear friend of ours, Franklin Palawachi Ortega, Executive Director of the Latinx Resource Center at Wabanzi Community College. Be blessed. Take care of yourself and each other.
Not your bank's top priority? Here at Wintrust, we take a different approach to banking. No hidden fees or runarounds, but a true banking partner focused on your unique financial goals. Whether you're opening your first account, found your dream home, planning for the future, or starting a business, we have the financial solutions to get you there. Stop settling and start experiencing a better way to bank. Wintrust, different approach, better results.